Hello, good afternoon. Good evening. It's Tracy B from the Divorce Solutionist. How are you? My necklaces are tangled again. Um, anyway, I'm sorry, my door is open because I like the breeze from outside, so you might hear a little ice cream truck going by. Excuse me. Yes, I still do my lives from my office slash living room. I have an official office here. I work from home. I have an official office at my home, but I don't like to be in it because it's way in the back of the house and it's secluded and it's messy. But anyway, so this is my favorite spot to do my lives because I have sunlight, I have fresh air, I have access to my kid to watch him, make sure he's not doing anything that impish. But anyway, I'm here. Today is Thursday, June 24th, 2021. And I'm here to do my lives as I do every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And last week, I was talking about working with lawyers in family law, family court matters. That means divorce, custody, support, modification, relocation, contempt, in any capacity, in whatever. I don't talk a lot about abuse neglect cases, CPS cases that often, although I did handle some of those. I don't talk about them that often because they can be very, 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 it's like going down a rabbit hole. It never ends. And it's too many overlapping issues. But so anyway, I digress as usual. Today I'm talking about working with lawyers only in divorce and custody matters and support, and all those things I just mentioned, and how to effectively work with them, what to expect, how to set parameters and boundaries and guidelines, how to not go broke, how to not waste your time and your money, how to not be taken advantage of. Yes, because all of these things happen when working with lawyers. Lawyers are, they're not all the scum of the earth, but some of them are like car salesmen. Sorry, car salesmen who are watching. But I've been to car salesmen a few times. I even dated one, and they are sleazy. And a lot of people compare lawyers to them, and not all lawyers are like them. But there are some that are out there, especially in areas like family law and criminal law, where in immigration, where people are really desperate, where emotions are high, um, lifestyle changes are imminent or and unavoidable, and so a lot of lawyers take advantage of people that come into their office for a family law case. Um, and so I am trying to enlighten my audience about ways to avoid being a victim in any sense of not just your own lawyer, but your adversary's lawyer or your opposing party or your ex, soon to be ex's lawyer, or even a lawyer who is who just does piecemeal or what's called unbundled services or limited services for you. You just don't want to be taken advantage, whether you pay them or not. You just don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't want to be taken for granted. You don't want to have ineffective representation or incompetent representation. You don't want to have that. And the thing to do, there are good lawyers out there who really want to help you, who really want to serve you, whether they are representing you on your entire case, a part of it, whether you pay them thousands of dollars, whether you pay them nothing. There are lawyers who really want to help you, who really want to do good. Um, there are lawyers, there are people I went to law school with who didn't care about making a lot of money. They were more concerned about doing something good, doing something to serve. And I'm not, I was on the fence. I was in the middle. I won't say on the fence. I was in the middle. Part of my reason for doing what I did or do now is because I always want to do good, right? I always want to be fulfilled. Materialistic things are not a priority to me. The flip side of that is that I do like to do things that cost money, like travel. So I do some of what I do to earn a decent living. And there are lawyers like that. There are lawyers who are, either one extreme or the other, or who are like me in the middle. So I say all that to say that there are things you can do to be diligent about ensuring that you're not being ripped off, you're not being ignored or taken advantage of, and you're not being disrespected in any way. So last week I started on that. Today I'm going to do a part 2, but what I decided to do a little differently this week was to go through some of the posts I found in a couple of the groups that I'm in, and to read them about what people are saying and the questions they're asking about lawyers, and some of what I advise, some of what other people advise. So just to give you an idea, as I mentioned last week, the number one complaint that I've gotten from a lot of my audience about lawyers is their lack of communication. They just don't respond. They don't answer calls, texts, or emails. They don't call in to check in. They don't, prep the clients for cases. They don't fill them in about what case court is about. They just don't communicate. They don't communicate. And I think that is unfortunate because it's so easy. It's so easy to send a one-liner. And I was in private practice. I remember in family law, the communication, the text messages, the phone calls, the emails, they never stopped. I mean, my clients and potential clients thought I was a machine. They thought I worked around the clock. And we're human. We have lives. However, the moment I signed a retainer with someone, I would say to them what my communication is like. I let them know that because I knew that was the number one complaint of clients, is the lack of communication. So I would always let them know what my rules are for communicating. I don't answer text messages or emails or anything on the weekend unless it's an emergency. If you text me Friday night at 8 o'clock, you will get a phone call, email, text on Monday morning. Or I might respond and say that. I will not respond. I will call you Monday morning or text you or email you Monday morning, unless it's an emergency. Because, that was my way of decompressing. So I get it. I understand lawyers need to do that. But tell them that. Let them know that. That's the number one complaint. And I see it all the time. So anyway, the other complaint is the billing, how lawyers bill. Lawyers, this is the thing. There is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on, especially in family law. There's not something going on every single minute from the lawyer's perspective. From the client's perspective, yes, because you're getting communication from your ex. There are things going on with your kids if you have kids. There's something that you just discovered, in the mail or in the house or blah, 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 whatever. So there's always something going on from the client's perspective. But from the lawyer's perspective, there's not always what we call movement on your case. So if that's the case, if there's no movement from my perspective and I'm representing you for 3 weeks, I'm not going to call you in 3 weeks. I'm not going to call you to tell you, hey, there's no movement. That's just me. I just wouldn't do that. And so any client who expects that can be a little bit unreasonable, because remember now, most lawyers bill you for just calling you to tell you that there's no movement. So do you want to be billed to be told that there's no movement? Again, yes, I would tell my clients that from the beginning. I only call when there's something to say. I'll let you know if there's a new something that came in the mail, if I got any communication from your ex's lawyer, if I got communication from the judge or from the court, something. I'm not going to call you just to say, hey, it's been silent for the last 3 weeks. I wouldn't do that. So I don't think it's unreasonable for your lawyer not to do that either. Okay. However, yes, it should be clear from the moment you sign your retainer agreement, how the communication is going to go. But I said that, right? You don't want to be billed for excessive things that are not relevant. So what I'm saying is, okay, I'm trying to think of an example. That's why I'm pausing. I'm trying to think of something that lawyers do a few times, and they can sometimes overbill or double or triple bill for. Say the lawyer sent an email to the other party, the other party's lawyer, and it was on a topic. Okay, pick up and drop off has changed. So now that's an email communication. The lawyer sent one email about that. That one email took what, 5 minutes, and they never got a response. So they sent another email a day or two or even a week later, and they never got a response. And then so they had to send it for the third time, and then finally they get a response. Is that 3 emails or is that one? Technically, it's 3, but the amount of time it took shouldn't total no more than 15 minutes. But to bill you for 15 minutes in 15-minute increments, for 15 minutes for each of those, adding up to 45 minutes, which is, if you're paying your lawyer $300 an hour, that's what, $225 for 3 emails that you sent that you got no response for. That's a little excessive. That's a little excessive. And so I get it. But again, that should be clear. You should be clear about that. You should discuss, your lawyer should explain to you how billing goes. And they should send you a regular invoice, actually spelling out, detailing, delineating all that they've done on your case, the time allotments, and how much it's going to cost you. That is super duper important. If more than 30 days have gone by and you haven't gotten one, call them, email them, text them, ask for one. Because what you don't want to do is wait for 90 days to get your first bill or a bill at all, only to realize that it's way more than you expected or anticipated the bill to be. That is not the smartest thing to do. And you have every right. You have every right to know exactly what you're paying for, exactly how you're being billed for it. That's super duper important. So 1 second. Okay, that one's there. So let me read some of what was being said in some of the groups. This is a great one. So this particular poster had an issue with her lawyer. The lawyer missed a deadline. The lawyer charged for emails that was never sent. The lawyer sent a letter addressed to the wrong to the poster's ex, but used the wrong name. And when the client complained about these things to the lawyer reimbursed her for all of those errors. However, she still felt like what she was paying the lawyer, the amount she was paying the lawyer, that the lawyer should have been way more professional and competent as far as it's concerned. Okay. And, understandably, I agree. This is the thing. Okay. You should demand certain things from your lawyer, right? Lawyers, especially family law attorneys, can range anywhere from $200 an hour up to $500, $600 an hour. Okay. I'm in the Northeast, the New York City metropolitan area. It's not unheard of to even find a lawyer charging way more than $500 an hour. We're talking about the Rowell-Felders and all that. Okay. But on average, anywhere between $250 and $400 an hour is pretty reasonable. The problem is, who is this lawyer that you're paying $400 an hour to? Is it a small practice with a solo practitioner and just a paralegal? Or is it a bigger mid-sized practice where there's several attorneys, several partners, several associate attorneys, several paralegals, and they have clerks, office managers, legal secretaries, yada, 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 yada. That makes a difference. It does. Absolutely. I'm going to tell you why. and for different reasons. It depends on who you are, what kind of client you're going to be, but it also depends on the nature of your case. It depends on the venue and the jurisdiction of your case. There's a whole lot of factors. But sometimes a smaller or a solo practitioner is much more suitable for your case. If you have a case where you're a stay-at-home mom and you have kids, and dad is a W-2 employee, but you need a lawyer because you're seeking alimony, you're seeking the marital home, you're seeking child support and custody, you might be fine dealing with a solo practitioner. That's not a complicated, especially depending on which jurisdiction you're in, where some of those things are pretty standard. You may fare better dealing with a solo practitioner who's going to charge you $250 an hour, who's going to give you the time and the attention you deserve and you need on your case, right? Now take that same scenario to one of the mid-sized law firms where they're charging $400 and $500 an hour, where there's several people who are going to have their hands on your file. Oh yeah, there's several people. They have meetings. They have meetings on the file so that if an attorney is not available, when a court appearance comes up, another attorney in the office handles your case. There may be several paralegals, that may touch your case, secretaries, all of those things, which is not a bad thing. But do you really need that in a case where you a stay-at-home mom, you're seeking alimony, the marital home, custody, and support? Do you really need to spend $400 or $500 an hour for a W-2 employee that you're seeking those things from? Maybe not. Maybe not. That may be unnecessary. That may be superfluous. You may not need that. Now, let me switch it around. You're both high earners. There's stocks. There's intellectual property. One of you owns a business. There's the guess that money or assets is being hidden. The marital home was gifted to one of the parties, but the other party, put time and money into appreciating the value of the. See where I'm going? Now the issues are getting a lot more convoluted, right? And you're talking about you're going to spend more because you have to get financial experts, you might have to get custody experts, you might have to get private investigators to locate assets. Now you're talking, so yeah, you might want to have the advantage of having a mid-sized firm handle that kind of a case. You're going to spend more, but it's to protect your interests and to actually get your interests, to make sure you get what you're supposed to, right? So you might have to spend money to get the money that you, or the, whatever, not necessarily money, because it could be custody. You might have to spend more money to get exactly what you deserve, what you're entitled to, right? So in that instance, yeah, it might be more a smarter idea to go with a mid-sized firm and not a solo practitioner, right? There's no set rules about that. It's just that you have to consider that. All of those things should be considered. Yes, referrals are good and references are good, but I don't always go by that. I don't always, because your situation is not identical to anybody's. And it's not just, oh, how was your lawyer? That's not just it. That's not what you need to know. You need to know how are they temperamentally? How are they with communication? How are they how do they interact with the judge? How you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to ask for a referral or a reference from somebody else who's gone through divorce or custody, you need to know the questions to ask them to really gauge whether or not they're the lawyer for you. Because, there are some lawyers who are good to some people, who are excellent to some people, and who are bad to others. Me and myself included. Everybody didn't love me. I had some who loved me and some of them who were just like, She was the worst. Hey, and it wasn't like I intended that way, or I didn't care. I gave up. It's just that some people I just didn't mesh with. We just didn't mesh. My style, my personality, my interaction with the judge. I'll never forget one client I had was upset. This was a criminal case, but still, one client was upset that I was making nice with the prosecutor. Like I was laughing and joking with the prosecutor, and when the court appearance was over, he let me know that he didn't appreciate that I was being friendly with the prosecutor who was trying to prosecute him and put him away. And it didn't dawn on me that that would even be an issue, because for me, anybody who sees me, anybody who's ever seen me in court knows that I am super aggressive. When I'm advocating for my client, I'm super aggressive. Sometimes to the point where the judge have to say, you have to calm down. I hear you. You have to listen to me, and you can't talk over me. You can't tell me how to run my court. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me how to rule. You can't tell me how to order. You can't blah, 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 blah. So it didn't dawn on me that that was an issue for my client, because I'm thinking, well, I see the prosecutor all the time. I know some of them. Some of them went to law school together. That doesn't take away from the fact that I'm standing here advocating for you, but they didn't see it that way. So needless to say, of course, he never sent me any referrals, and I'm okay with that. Like I said, I wasn't everybody's favorite. I'm okay with that. I don't try to be. I try to be straightforward, honest, and I try to do exactly what I tell you I'm going to do. Of course, I don't practice anymore, but even in my capacity now as a strategist, coach, consultant, I try to do exactly what I tell you I'm going to do. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, because sometimes I try to overpromise, or I think I can do something and it winds up being a lot more complicated. But that's just my being overzealous sometimes. But anyway, so referrals or references from other people are good. That's a good starting point, but you still need to make sure they're a good fit for you. And that means you need to talk to the lawyer yourself. Don't go in, looking eager and super optimistic about working with them or hiring them. No, you need to screen them just like you screen everybody else. You need to have your list of questions. You need to pay attention to their environment. You need to watch them, how they interact with other people in the office, how they answer calls when a client or potential client calls, if they answer the phone in front of you. You need to see what's important to them. You need to see how they have things laid out in the office. Now, a messy office is not an indication of anything with a lawyer. My office stayed messy. But you need to look at how they operate within their comfort zone. I'm telling you, it all makes a difference. Yeah, some people like, Tracy, really, trust me. Trust me. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Personality of the lawyer is just as important as the personality of the judge. As the personality of, everybody else is going to have a play in your case. And I know sometimes time is of the essence. You're under pressure, whatever. Ask them for a limited representation. Ask them if they can represent you. If time is of the essence, because there's something that needs to be done today, tomorrow, or next week, ask them to do a limited representation where they could just handle that particular issue and only that issue. And then you can decide whether or not you'll have them as your full-on attorney or not. You can ask for limited representation, especially now since COVID. There's a lot of things that's way more acceptable or way more accepted or allowed or permitted that wasn't years ago. Okay, but that's super important with references or referrals, that you talk to the lawyer, meet with a lawyer, and screen them. Okay, here's another one. How difficult is it to change lawyers? I'm so close to the end of my divorce, but it keeps getting drawn out. My lawyer seems to have less time for my case now that she's at a new firm. She's been forgetting details and has even started stooping to my ex's level by engaging in insults toward him in her emails. I don't want to switch this close to the end, but what should I do? And I want to read some of the responses, and I'll let you know what I think about the responses. This one person said, the new lawyer will request a case file from the previous lawyer, and will let her know that you went with her and will let her know you went with a better lawyer for your needs. Okay, so this is true. When you're switching lawyer, okay, so switching lawyers, there's advantages and there are disadvantages. Some of the advantages are that if you're not satisfied with the one you're working with, that you should very well seek out a new one. Okay, you should definitely seek out a new one. Sometimes the lawyer that you have makes things worse because, again, if their personality or their attitude or their style isn't conducive to or compatible with the other lawyer or even the judge, that can reflect upon the outcome of your case. And if you notice that, if you pick that up, yeah, you might want to consider switching. You save time, you save money, and you can save your case. Those are some of the advantages. Some of the disadvantages are sometimes the judges get really, really annoyed and upset when you do that, depending on the stage or the phase of the case. Yeah, judges, because from their point of view, it's like it slows down the case. It's it causes the case to be stagnant for a while, because when you're in between lawyers or you're looking for another lawyer, it takes time, first of all, to screen a new lawyer, to vet them, and then once you get one, they have to get up to speed, be brought up to speed. They have to request a file from the other lawyer. Then once they get that, then they have to review it, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of times the judges don't want you to switch a lawyer, but you can't. They don't have a choice. They can't stop you. So that's a few of the disadvantages. Another disadvantage is it costs you more because now you have to pay another huge, hefty initial deposit, initial retainer to get that new lawyer. And if you've given one to the old lawyer, you could easily be out $15,000 just between initial deposits, not even the bills that's going to come down the line. I'm talking initial deposits, initial retainer. And sometimes the old lawyer makes it difficult for you to even get a new lawyer. Because if you owe the old lawyer and you need the file from the old lawyer, a lot of times they will hold your file hostage until they are paid. And they can ask the court to intervene if you don't. And a lot of times they do. So that's another disadvantage. So now you're out of the money for both deposits and you don't have the file. So what can you do? What do the lawyers do? Sometimes they recreate the file as much as they can. But see, this is another thing. This is why I always recommend to people throughout their case that they ask for a copy of whatever the lawyer gets, that you ask your lawyer to send you a copy of everything that the lawyer drafts and everything that the lawyer receives. Some lawyers won't do that because they know why you're asking, but the ones who will, be diligent about that. Because then if you do have to fire them and get another lawyer, you don't have to ask them for the file. You have your own copy of it. See? And it's that easy. Another thing I always tell people to do is to get a copy of their transcript. Every time you go to court or every time you're on the record, period, whether it be in mediation, depositions, anytime there's a court reporter or a recorder recording what's going on, you always want the transcripts. You always want. The lawyer's not going to ask for them, but you should. You don't even need the lawyer to get those, to request those. You can ask the lawyer how to request them, but you could do that on your own. And a lot of courts now have it online where you could just order it online, or there's a form you get online and you fill it out and you submit it to whomever you are supposed to. And it's that easy. I'm going to do one more because it's already 4:30. This is a post that I did back in 2019, so I want to read this because this is definitely something that has to do with my number 2 complaint that I mentioned earlier about the fees. But my tip of the day was, if lawyer fees are overwhelming, here's some tips. There's 4 tips. 1, ask them if they can get a portion of their fees from the other side. You could, depending on, especially in contempt or violation cases, you can always ask for, if you're the one filing, you can always ask for attorney's fees from the other side. If discovery is delayed, and because discovery is delayed, it is dragging out the case even longer, which is incurring you more fees, legal fees. Your lawyer can ask for legal fees from the other side for that too. The lawyer can file a motion. Anytime he's asking for fees, he has to file a motion. But that's certainly one way to get your fees down. Number 2, ask if you can do some of the administrative stuff yourself. If they bill you for this, make copies, go to the courthouse and retrieve documents, going to pick up copies from somewhere else, having something filed or submitted. Ask them if you can do some of that stuff yourself. If you're good at that, if you have time, or if you have someone who could do it for you, who's not going to charge you $2.50 an hour, or even if they have a paralegal rate of $200 or $150 an hour, you might be able to find somebody to do it for $25. Ask them. A lot of lawyers, if you trust them and they trust you, they will work with you. Believe it or not, a lot of them will work with you, especially if they think you're, a decent person, and you're straightforward and you don't give them a hard time, and they will be more inclined to help you out. The other thing is, I think I touched upon it earlier, is ask them how they bill. Do they bill in 15-minute increments? Do they bill for every minute? Do they bill, for repetitive work? Do they bill for, ask them to explain in detail, how they bill. How do those hourly rates add up? How do they accrue? How? And to make sure you get a breakdown every single month of how they are billing and what they're billing for. And the final one is, if you're getting a settlement, if you know that there is a house to be sold that's going to be sold, if you know there's cash to split, if there's a business that you are going to be bought out of or get your fair share of, or anything else where there's going to be cash, any sort of cash settlement, ask the lawyer if they can wait until you get that to be paid out of that. I used to do that all the time. I did it all the time because that was my way of helping people who were just not cash ready, but they had assets. And I knew the assets would be split. And I would make them sign something to promise that they'd pay me from that. And they would pay me from it. They would pay me from their property settlement. I helped way more people that way than I did with them just paying my bill, every bill that I sent them in full every single time. Because where my office was, there was it was just working people. They were working class people. They weren't cash ready. They didn't have a lot of money, but they were working people and they had assets. And so, that was my way of, helping, So anyway, I didn't get through half of the other posts that I had, but if necessary, I'll do a part 3 because I think this is super helpful, and I think that I would be doing a disservice to not talk about these topics regularly and routinely, and so yeah, I'll do it again. And in the meantime, if you have any specific questions about that, lawyers and how to work with them and how to not get ripped off, or blah, 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 blah. You can always feel free to, to send me a message on Facebook, a DM on Facebook, and I'll add it, or I'll address it in one of my lives. But in the meantime, please feel free to visit me at www.thedivorcesolutionist. You see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Check out my groups. I have 2 groups on Facebook, Divorce Glow Up and Pro Se Divorce in Custody. Thank you. Sorry, my postman. I have a weekly blog that I do. You can find that on divorcesolutionist.com. I go live here on my business page, The Divorce Solutionist, on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at, you guessed it, The Divorce Solutionist. I'm on LinkedIn at, you guessed it again, The Divorce Solutionist. The only social media platform that I'm not on regularly is Twitter, because I'm just not a big Twitter person. But anyway, there's no reason why you can't find me. I do free consultations that last for 15 minutes. If you want one of those, just feel free to either DM me on Facebook or reach out to me on Instagram or email me at divorcecoachesq@gmail.com or just visit my website. Again, the one that's scrolling at the bottom there. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until later. Bye.